Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be talking about the very recent post by Scott Mercer on the Overwatch forums concerning the matchmaker. How it calculates your SR gain and loss, if that's manipulated in any way by the size of your party or group, and how it will work as we move forward into the LFG era. There's a lot of fascinating information in this post and it's quite dense, so we'll be breaking down specific parts to try and understand this complex issue as clearly as possible. The first idea they want to dispel is that SR gains and losses are not impacted by group size. If you are a 2800 SR player playing against other 2800 SR players, your gain and loss will not be affected by the size of your group. It would be the same if you're on your own or in a 6-stack. Now this might be technically true, but the crucial detail is that the matchmaker actively tries to place you in matches where the groups are the same size, in an effort to make it fair for all players, especially solo players. They do this because they want the perceived win rate of any group size to be as comparatively close to 50% as possible. Now there's an absolutely crucial piece of information to understand. This perceived win rate percentage does affect your SR gain and loss, and that does seem to change when groups of different sizes play each other. Let's look at this passage. Now let's look at all teams consisting of solo players. They play against other all solo teams 73% of the time with a 50% win rate. Meanwhile, they'll very seldomly be matched against a full 6-stack, only once in every 1150 games, and they'll have a 41% win rate. That win percentage isn't great, but it doesn't happen often, and 41% is not unwinnable. So when solos play teams, they're expected to lose, and at 41%, their gain for a win could be much larger and their losses significantly less. This next passage explains that. To help explain this further, here's a simplified example to help explain how predicted win percentage affects your SR. As an example, let's say you play 10 games in a row and all 10 games only have a predicted 40% win rate. If you win 4 of those 10 matches, your SR will be the same as it started. So that seems fairly clear. Your perceived win rate does vary depending on your group size when different size groups play each other, and that does affect your gain and loss. However, in an effort to try and clarify this, Scott also replied to someone in the comments with this. Let me rephrase something I noted in the post. Group size doesn't matter for the purposes of calculating expected win chance for a game. What matters is the SR of the players on each team. Since grouping status doesn't change the expected win chance, it doesn't affect the amount of SR change you experience after a win or loss. Well, now I'm really confused, as I'm sure most of you guys are. In one example, he says group size does affect predicted win rate and your SR, as it pertains to being a solo player playing against a stack, while in the other he says that it's not the case. Now it's important to say that most of the time, the matchmaker doesn't put teams against solos. Its whole purpose is to avoid that. But in the cases that it does and beyond that composition, 6 stacks have a higher predicted win rate than all other group sizes, as demonstrated here. Among all possible team compositions, the one with the highest win rate is the full team of 6 players. If we again take into account how often the 6-player team composition plays other compositions, and close to 84% are against teams with at least 4, 5 or 6-player groups, then they only have an observed win rate of 52.88%. So there is a very modest advantage to playing in a 6-stack. All the other composition possibilities have closer to 50% win rates. So notice how he says that when we take into account all group sizes, the 6-stack win rate levels out at 52.88%. That means it's different against each group size, with the most even being another 6-stack, presumably at 50% or close to it, and the most uneven being the all solos opposition mentioned before. Even at 52%, that is still an inherent disadvantage as far as gains and losses go. What I fail to grasp is, how can the matchmaker use predicted win rate to determine SR while apparently not using the stats that Scott used as examples of why different size groups rarely play each other? Are they favoured or are they not? On one hand he says yes, the other no. It simply cannot be the case that group size has no effect on perceived win rate and therefore SR for groups, but then at the same time it does if you're a solo player playing against large groups, so don't worry as you'll lose less because you're unfavoured. He did say in that passage that groups have an observed win rate and not a perceived win rate, and those are two different things, but that doesn't explain why solo players still lose less when playing against groups. What's even more baffling is that if it truly was only the SR that determined your likelihood to win, like Scott says it is and yet can't be, then there wouldn't be any need to do any manipulation at all. If groups did naturally have an advantage, they'd simply be higher in SR as they'd win more games. This all happens because they don't want mixed groups playing each other. They actively try and protect solos and duos from playing larger teams, as that's seen as not very fair. But if they didn't do that, the SR system would rank players much more accurately anyway, and the matches would be fair because the SR system would be working properly. Someone please stop me if I'm making absolutely no sense. Unfortunately, I'm just more confused than ever by this post. It's not like the idea of grouping being bad for gaining rank came out of nowhere. It's not a bolt of lightning from a clear blue sky. Players found out through experience. It's way better than it used to be for sure. It no longer stacks SR against you, which was definitely a thing that happened. But I can't be the only one that feels like this issue hasn't been resolved yet. Let me know in the comments if you found this post as confusing as we did, and does it make you more or less likely to group up moving forward? I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.